On October 1st, 1993, a normal Friday night, 12-year-old Polly Klass was abducted by an unknown intruder. She had been enjoying a slumber party at her Petaluma, California home with two friends when someone forcibly entered the residence while holding a knife. Polly's mother slept in a nearby room, and during that time, hell was brought upon the Klaas family. The intruder captured Polly and fled the scene, and her family was left behind with nothing but questions. Why did this intruder target Polly, and why was she not safe, even in the confines of her own house? Polly was never seen alive after that, and we offer our deepest condolences to Polly's parents for the unbearable loss of their beloved daughter. Polly was born to Mark and Eve Klaas in 1981, and she grew up to be a confident girl who always made her parents proud. At school, she fearlessly took on the mean girls, who were all envious of Polly's unique kindness and striking beauty. Whenever she witnessed someone else being bullied, Polly would boldly step in to defend them. She was a radiant presence in everybody's lives, and she was incredibly bright, with a sassy style that was entirely her own. Excelling in her studies, she had a knack for making friends wherever she went. She also had a deep passion for the arts, particularly creative dramatics, and she inspired everyone who came to know her closely. The tragedy cut her life short, but the impact she had on the people closest to her cannot be ignored. And that is why nobody understood why things went so wrong with this little girl. On the fateful October night, Polly was enjoying her time with her friends Kate and Jillian, who were both 12 years old. They were dancing, listening to music, and having a blast in the safety of Polly's home. Little did they know that a nightmare was about to unfold. At around 11 p.m., a man, armed with a knife, quietly slipped into Polly's bedroom. At first, he tried to assure the girls he meant no harm and was just after some money, but then he silenced them and covered their faces with pillowcases. He told them to count to 1,000 and warned them that if they screamed, he would harm them. That's when he took Polly at knife point and left the house. The entire incident went down in under 5 minutes, and her friends could barely process what had happened. They somehow managed to free themselves and rushed to Polly's mother's room, frantic and scared. Her mother wasted no time and immediately dialed the Petaluma Police Department. In her panicked state, she could be heard saying that apparently a man broke into their house and took her daughter. The gravity of the situation gradually became apparent as the call continued. It was a call that would set off a frantic search for Polly nationwide, and eventually, even the FBI got involved. Two crucial pieces of evidence were collected from Polly's house, including a part of her torn ballet leggings and a palm print found on the bed railing. Both of these would later help authorities finally catch the culprit. When investigators confronted Polly Klass's case, they grappled with a perplexing challenge. This was no ordinary abduction. It was a stranger abduction, which made solving the case incredibly tough. In such instances, the abductor lacks any connection to the victim or their family, leaving scant leads to trace back. Typically, in kidnapping cases, the finger often points toward family members, but a swift and thorough investigation cleared Polly's family from any involvement. With Polly's two friends as witnesses, there was a glimmer of hope. Though they were terrified, they managed to provide descriptions of the stranger. These details were crucial, enabling investigators to create a composite sketch. In kidnapping situations, time is of the essence. The first 24 to 48 hours are make or break, often determining whether the missing person will be found alive. Recognizing this, the police knew they had to act swiftly and decisively to unravel the mystery of Polly's disappearance. In the following 2 months of 1993, 4,000 people joined the search for Polly. Her story even made it to TV shows like 2020 and America's Most Wanted. Law enforcement issued an all-points bulletin, APB, with the suspect's details within half an hour of the kidnapping. The entire nation was united and desperate to find the poor girl alive. The investigators left no stone unturned. They diligently questioned Polly's neighbors, using every resource at their disposal. The scene was intense. As helicopters buzzed overhead, Police dogs scoured the area, volunteers distributed flyers, and the police department operated around the clock. Even famed actress Winona Ryder, a fellow Petaluma native, stepped forward, offering a substantial $200,000 reward for Polly's safe return. Amidst this turmoil, keen-eyed neighborhood kids provided a glimmer of hope. They reported seeing a man loitering near Polly's house, matching the description given by the two girls. Others in the community also recalled seeing this mysterious figure, yet no one had alerted the police. Simultaneously, another story was unfolding on the sidelines, which brought crucial developments to the case. Just hours after the abduction, in a rural area near Santa Rosa, about 20 miles north of Petaluma, a babysitter heading home noticed a strange vehicle stuck in a ditch on her employer's private driveway. She gave the property owner a call, who decided to leave with her daughter immediately. While driving down the long driveway to Pythian Road, the owner crossed paths with Richard Allen Davis, who was 39 years old at the time. Once at a service station, she dialed 911, and 2 deputies were dispatched to the scene. Now, here's where it gets tricky. These deputies didn't have any information about the kidnapping or the suspect's description because they were using a different radio channel. They decided to check Davis's driver's license and license plate number, but it came back clean with no wants or warrants. They tried to persuade the property owner to carry out a citizen's arrest for trespassing. In California, a civilian could arrest this kind of misdemeanor. Essentially, the property owner would have had to say, "I arrest you," with the deputies then taking Davis into custody. However, the property owner declined to do so. During their interaction with Davis, who had his car stuck in a ditch, the deputies diligently searched his vehicle, but they didn't find any evidence of anyone else being in the car. The only thing they noted was an open container of beer, but since Davis wasn't driving at that moment, possessing an open container wasn't against the law. They merely instructed him to pour out the beer and filed a field interrogation card with his information. The authorities helped Davis get his car out and let him go, but as they will later realize, that was a grave mistake. Later on, the same property owner stumbled upon something suspicious on November 28, 1993, while in land, which had recently been cleared by loggers. She came across items that triggered a possible connection to Polly's kidnapping. Acting swiftly, she dialed the sheriff's department to report her findings. Deputies and crime scene investigators rushed to the scene. To their astonishment, they discovered ballet leggings that were torn. Later, the FBI crime laboratory confirmed that these leggings matched the ones taken as evidence on the night of Polly's abduction. It wasn't until the property owner's discovery and the subsequent matching of the leggings that Davis's identity came to light. The FI card filled out by the deputies was the key that eventually unlocked the case. It revealed Davis's connection to the area, and his palm print at the kidnapping scene was eventually traced back to him. It had remained a mystery earlier due to the poor quality of the print. A vigilant deputy intercepted Davis on the road, swiftly placing him under arrest and into the custody of the police. As detectives delved into Davis's past, they unearthed a troubling rap sheet marred by charges of robbery, kidnapping, and attempted sexual assault. He was in and out of jail for most of his life. The 2 young witnesses were summoned to a lineup, and they both pointed to Davis, definitively identifying him as the kidnapper. The police finally had their prime suspect. The Sonoma County Sheriff's Department, alongside the Petaluma Police and the FBI, kicked off a search of the property and the surrounding Pythian Road area, even during a heavy rainstorm. They started cautiously, keeping the first 2 days of the search discreet because they had their eyes on Davis, who was under surveillance at an Indian rancheria near Ukiah, California. The initial search didn't yield any results, and their watchful eyes on Davis didn't crack the case either. Once they nabbed Davis for Polly's kidnapping, the authorities began grilling him to get a confession out of him. Simultaneously, an enormous search effort was launched on Friday, December 3rd. This was a joint effort, with over 500 search team members coming from 24 different agencies, some even hailing from as far away as Kern County, California, and Washoe County, Nevada. The whole operation was overseen by the California State Office of Emergency Services, with help from FBI crime scene teams and several other state and federal agencies. This search for Polly ranked among the biggest ever carried out in California. The hunt continued tirelessly through December 4th, and while it turned up some crucial evidence, it didn't provide any traces of human remains. The plan was to carry on into December 5th, but on the evening of December 4th, a breakthrough occurred. Davis confessed to kidnapping and murdering Polly, leading investigators to her body. He had buried her in a shallow grave, tucked just off Highway 101, about a mile south of the city limits of Cloverdale, California. The gravesite was roughly 20 air miles and around 30 road miles from the initial search site. While Richard Allen Davis eventually confessed to strangling Polly Klass, he remained tight-lipped about the timeline of events from that fateful night of October 1st. Investigators had their suspicions, though. It seemed Davis feared that the two people who crossed paths with him would notify the sheriff's department. Authorities believed that he ended Polly's life before the deputies arrived and then concealed her body in the dense trees on the hillside near where his car got stuck. Afterward, he waited for an undisclosed amount of time, probably anxious about being discovered by the passing deputies. He eventually made his way back to Highway 12, approximately 1.5 miles from his car he was found. When the deputies caught up with him, they noticed he was out of breath, drenched in sweat even though it was a chilly night, and had leaves and twigs scattered in his hair. It's assumed that Davis had pre-selected the burial spot because it was cleverly hidden from casual observers. The general area could be seen from Highway 101, but the grave remained concealed. Davis also had to commute from the Indian Rancheria in Ukiah to meet with his parole officer once a week. This routine would have given him ample opportunity to spot any police activity in the region, further aiding his sinister plan. Davis, born on June 2, 1954, Davis had a disturbing childhood. His parents struggled with alcoholism, fostering an unstable environment. His mother resorted to extreme punishments, even burning her son's hands on a hot stove for smoking. Davis bore witness to frequent violent conflicts between his parents, which eventually led to their separation when he was just 9 years old, and they divorced when he was 11. By the time he reached his teens, he was already involved in criminal activities. At the age of 12, he was placed on probation for burglary and forgery, with further brushes with the law at 15 for another burglary. His criminal tendencies escalated, leading him to drop out of high school during his sophomore year. At 17, Davis faced a pivotal choice: juvenile detention or the U.S. Army. Opting for the latter, he served for 13 months before receiving a general discharge, but his criminal path was far from over. In 1973, during a party at the home of 18-year-old Marlene Voris, she was found dead from a gunshot wound. Although authorities ruled it a suicide, some of Voris's friends suspected Davis of her murder. Davis, in 1977, admitted that Voris's death deeply affected him, claiming he heard her voice in his head and even another woman's voice, advocating for assault, robbery, or sexual assault. Before his sentencing for kidnapping and taking Polly's life, he was diagnosed with avoidant personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, and schizoid personality disorder. Following a lengthy trial, Davis faced his day of reckoning on June 18, 1996. The charges included first-degree murder with 4 special circumstances, including robbery, burglary, kidnapping, and an attempted lewd act on a child. A jury from San Jose Superior Court delivered a sentence of death. But during his formal sentencing, Davis brazenly taunted the grieving Klaas family by extending both middle fingers toward a courtroom camera. Adding further pain, he callously claimed that Polly Klass's last words hinted at an unspeakable accusation against her father. In response to Davis's shocking behavior, Judge Thomas Hastings firmly imposed the death penalty. He declared that Davis's conduct in the courtroom had only reinforced the decision to condemn him to death. Since that day in 1996, Davis has been on death row to this day. After the tragic loss of Polly Klass, her family decided to cremate her remains and scatter her ashes over the vast Pacific Ocean. Polly's father, Klaas, transformed his grief into advocacy, and he became a powerful voice for child protection and founded the Klaas Kids Foundation. His mission was to offer support to parents enduring the nightmare of child abductions. Klaas made numerous appearances on television shows like Larry King Live, CNN Headline News, and Nancy Grace, working to raise awareness about child safety. Polly's abduction also prompted changes in law enforcement practices. The Critical All Points Bulletin was initially limited to the California Highway Patrol channel, only accessible by CHP radios. However, this approach evolved after Polly's case, and the radio system was upgraded to ensure that such vital bulletins reached all police channels through a centralized 911 dispatch system, improving the chances of swift action in kidnapping cases. As a tribute to Polly, a performing arts center was named after her in Petaluma in October 1998. Due to financial challenges, the center closed its doors in 2000, but in August 2022, a renovation project was underway to reopen the center by year-end. Polly's story also left a lasting impact on legislation. Her case inspired politicians in California and beyond to support three strikes laws. In California, this led to the signing of the Three Strikes Act on March 8, 1994, broader efforts to enhance penalties for repeat offenders. As the shadows of crime loom, remember to watch over your loved ones. Stay vigilant, stay safe,